Now at 7, a shelter-in-place order in parts of northeast Portland as police search for 2 armed carjacking suspects. Thomas Schultz is live at the scene with the latest.
Nonprofits can be particularly vulnerable to phishing and whaling and all kinds of cyber attacks.
Homeland Security warning about the increased likelihood of cyber attacks because of the conflict between Israel and Iran. We'll hear what Oregon's Homeland Security advisor had to say about it. Plus,
and yet the crew shouldn't have had to be heroes, because this accident never should have happened.
New answers as to what happened on Alaska Airlines flight that caused the door plug to blow out over Portland, why the NTSB says Boeing isn't the only one to blame.
And we're also talking about another increase for Oregon's minimum wage. What you need to know as we roll into the 7 o'clock hour of Sunrise, streaming live here on KGW Plus.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us live at 7. I'm China Green.
And I'm Drew Carney. Our buddy and pal, Rodney Hill, also on board for the 7 o'clock hour. He's live in the Weather Center. Rodney with the bow. We bow to you. What do you got?
Good morning. Have a comfortable day. So yesterday it was sunny and warm. I know a lot of you love that. It was 85. Today it's the opposite. It'll be so comfortable to be out and about, though. We have a solid cloud deck, and it's a day that, while there could be a break in the clouds at some point, we think for the most part it just stays cloudy today. So that's our state capitol down in Salem, live camera. Being reported as dry and 56 degrees. The clouds have gotten lower in just the past hour over downtown Portland, and you wonder, I've not seen reports. Okay, there's the first report, yes. It's at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock. PDX along the Columbia is saying there's a little bit of mist or a little bit of light precip in the air. So that is always a possibility on these low marine cloud mornings, and now we have that going on. Moving forward, I do expect the clouds to hold 61 at noon, 67 at 5 o'clock, and we'll repeat this pattern, by the way, tomorrow. We'll have your 7-day forecast, of course, coming up. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Rob. We've also been talking about this traffic alert that starts tomorrow. It runs through the weekend. So here's the deal. Starting tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, Southwest Durham Road and Tigard will be shut down on the west side of Upper Boones Ferry Road. That closure is happening one day earlier than originally planned. And that stretch of Durham Road will stay closed until 9 o'clock next Monday night while crews work to replace a railroad crossing.
All right, back to breaking news in northeast Portland, where police are searching for 2 armed carjacking suspects. Thomas
Schultz is covering the story for us live in northeast Portland. Thomas, what can you tell us?
Well, Drew and China, police have issued shelter-in-place orders here in the Hazelwood neighborhood. Now, I want to show you just where we're at. We're at 114th and Halsey, and you can see right behind us there's a large police presence right down by these homes along this stretch of 114th Avenue here in northeast Portland. We've seen drones in the sky all morning long. There's also canines out there, and CERT officers arrived on scene just over an hour ago. This all stems after police responded to an armed carjacking around 4 o'clock this morning near northeast 108th and Haslow. Officers then located the vehicle on the 1300 block of northeast 114th. And right here on 114th is where that large police presence currently is. Officers, since we've been on scene, have been standing out here monitoring the situation. Seems like they are honing in on this specific stretch in particular. Now, suspects were then seen fleeing the 1300 block of northeast 114th in the area around here. Special operations officers in the crisis negotiation team are on scene. Residents have been asked to stay in place, and this seems like a situation that police are just monitoring closely and carefully here in northeast Portland. Anybody with information about this alleged criminal activity or where these suspects may be is urged to contact Portland police. Of course, Drew and China, all throughout the morning as this situation continues to progress, we'll bring you the latest updates. Guys?
All right, Thomas Schultz live for us this morning there in northeast Portland, covering that breaking news story. In other headlines this morning, Homeland Security is warning about what it's calling a heightened threat environment here in the U.S. because of the conflict between Israel and Iran. It says people should be especially on guard against cyber attacks. Here's what a local security expert and retired member of the FBI had to say about it.
We focus a lot on physical security. It's where people see the most security improvements in their spaces. And cyber needs to be as important to all of these organizations as well.
Oregon's emergency management team is asking everyone to do the following. Stay informed and pay attention to news updates. Look out for suspicious behavior and let authorities know about anything that doesn't look or seem right. And they say be extra careful when you're online, specifically watching out for scams, phishing emails, or suspicious links.
Oregon Governor Tina Kotek has signed a bill into law that provides unemployment benefits to striking workers. This makes Oregon the first state to offer this type of pay to striking public employees. Eligible workers can now collect benefits after 2 weeks on strike, with payments capped at 10 weeks.
Unemployment in the Portland metro area basically held steady last month. The state employment department says Portland area unemployment rose to 4.5% in May, just a 0.1% increase from April. It's also lower than the state's overall unemployment rate, which sits at 4.8%. The steepest job declines in May were in construction. The biggest gains came from the leisure and hospitality sectors.
Oregon's minimum wage is set to go up next week. So here's 3 things you need to know. Number 1, this is not new. Oregon's minimum wage is automatically adjusted every year based on inflation. The increase for this year is 35 cents statewide starting on July 1st. So that is next Tuesday. Number 2, the state of Oregon has 3 separate minimum wages here: a standard wage, a higher wage of the Portland Metro, and a lower wage for non-urban counties. Those wage increases are on your screen there. And we have more detailed list on the counties affected on our website. Number 3 here, Washington's minimum wage already changed on January 1st. The state minimum went up from $16.28 to $16.66, but the federal minimum wage has not changed since 2009 at $7.25. Cute!
Yes, we do have a cute story here, China. Before we get to cute Rod Hill, how about the cute black bears at the Oregon Zoo? Earlier this month, the zoo celebrated Black Bear Day. National Black Bear Day happened the first Saturday here in June. And yes, the bears celebrated by taking a dip in that pool in their enclosure. You think they're fighting over pool time there? It's my turn. This pool's only big enough for one of us. It's my turn right now. Well, they both got their turns there. The zoo said the bears had a, quote, very good time.
Oh, come on.
Very good time.
Oh, I love the Bears.
You do love the Bears?
Yeah, ever since I was a little kid, the Bears are about my favorite. Yeah.
You like the Grizzlies best, the Black Bears? What do you like, Rod?
Well, I certainly respect the Grizzlies the most because those fellas are big. Here's a look at the Reserve Vineyards and Golf Club out low. If I stand over here, I've been watching the pond, and there are some raindrops. And then if I look at the observation, there are some raindrops. So we are now picking up a little bit of moisture coming from the low cloud deck that has been overhead. And it's looking murky. I don't see anything here by Jefferson High School looking out, or Lincoln High School, I'm sorry, looking out our window here at KGW. But that looks like there could be some misty spots. And PDX out along the Columbia is now reporting. So if you're getting ready to cross the interstate bridge or the Glenn Jackson Bridge, you might have to flip your windshield wipers on just a touch. It is foggy and absolutely areas of light moisture falling at the coast. Now, this is a low cloud deck, so when you get to the Cascades and east, it's partly cloudy to mostly sunny. You folks will have a beautiful day. 69 out in Pendleton right now. The valley forecast, so a reminder, some traces of rain, certainly a possibility. To hit 70 today, we would need some breaks in the cloud cover, and I'm not certain that we get that. I think the odds favor us staying gray and holding temperatures in the 60s. This shows Longview, Kelso area, only about 66. So about a 20-degree cool-off from yesterday's sunny, bright day that we had where temperatures were up into the mid-80s. Here's the forecast map this afternoon. You can see the sun 80s from Bend, John Day, Pendleton, areas out east. The Dow 77 about 80 for a high. This is 3 o'clock temperature projection. And then the clouds here on the west side and the marine deck holding solid. This is 2 days of perhaps not seeing the sun today and tomorrow. And there's actually a better chance of fairly widespread measurable light precipitation from the cloud deck tomorrow. So we'll see how that plays out. Friday, we start to develop sun, and then by the weekend, we're back into the 80s, 84 Saturday and 87 degrees Sunday, and that is your forecast.
Thank you, Rod. Let's take a look at traffic right now. ODOT reporting a crash on Highway 18 near McMinnville. The crash was first reported around 6 a.m. We'll keep you updated if anything changes out there.
Now to an update on last year's door plug blowout on board an Alaska Airlines flight over Portland.
Federal transportation investigators say systemic failures by Boeing and the FAA are the cause of the near disaster. Tim Gordon brings us the latest.
On January 5th, 2024, at about 5:13 p.m. Pacific Standard Time,
the NTSB laid out the facts about Alaska Airlines Flight 1282. starting with heroism for those who got the plane down safely after a door plug blew out after taking off from Portland with 164 passengers on board.
I firmly believe there's one reason Flight 1282 averted catastrophe, and one reason only: the crew.
NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy shared what it was like on the flight deck that January evening when the cabin lost pressure.
To quote the captain, it was an explosive experience. The first officer said it was chaos.
Chaos at roughly 15,000 feet. The cabin crew dealing with a gaping hole in the side of the plane, the pilots working to descend and land safely.
And yet the crew shouldn't have had to be heroes, because this accident never should have happened.
The board spoke with NTSB investigators about why the door plug blew out, confirming it was 4 missing bolts that allowed the door plug to slowly slide up.
And what was happening is it was gradually moving up, and eventually it wouldn't hold it any further. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we saw the evidence of that in the materials lab exam and those seal marks.
There is a fix coming by 2026 to add an additional fastener and other improvements to the door plugs. Throughout the hearing, the NTSB pointed to several problems at Boeing, from a loss of veteran workers to poor training for new ones, ineffective management, a rush to produce more planes on the assembly line.
An accident like this does not happen because of an individual or even a group of individuals. Aviation is much more resilient than that. An accident like this only happens when there are multiple system failures.
And that includes the systems of the FAA, charged with making sure aircraft are built to safely carry their valuable payloads of people.
They really need to look at how they've conducted oversight in the past, why their oversight didn't pick up on deficiencies, and how to improve that in the future.
Tim Gordon, KGW News.
After yesterday's hearing, Boeing issued a statement saying, in part, quote, "It regrets this accident and continues to work on strengthening safety and quality across operations." Also saying, "We will review the final report and recommendations as we continue to implement improvements." News from Boeing this morning. Boeing says it's giving 58 former employees their jobs back after they were laid off late last year. According to the engineers union, Boeing violated 2 provisions within the union contract and said those violations had to do with union workers getting laid off before contractors. 2,600 people lost their jobs starting last November, including 600 from the engineers union. The rehired employees will be back on the job by the end of this week. Quick break here on the Sunrise Show, but when we come back, we're talking about that record-setting heat that is sweeping across the country. We're going to hear from some of the people impacted most. And take a look at this video. What caused a car to get launched into the air? Crazy video that we're going to share with you next here on Sunrise when we come right back on KGW Plus.
The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time. Track how the weather will impact your day.
It's certainly becoming increasingly hazardous.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news live from the scene.
That snowpack is still heavy.
Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.
KGW's Evening News. Important stories to help you stay informed and keep your family safe.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Christine Pitawanich.
And I'm David Molko.
Weather impact alerts to help you plan your week.
We need to be extra careful with anything that can throw a spark.
And a team of local journalists connected to our community. David Molko, Christine Pitawanich, and Matt Zaffino. Your evening news team, tonight on KGW.
We know people in the East and Midwest are dealing with a dangerous and, in at least one case, deadly heat wave this week.
Over 150 million people are under heat alerts from the Mississippi Valley to the East Coast. NBC's Sam Brock has more on this.
For huge sections of the East Coast, it's been a sweltering start to summer, leaving many Americans from Boston to the Big Apple trying to manage.
It's very hot. We feel like we're melting.
Really, really hot and really, really humid.
You checked your phone a second ago. What'd it say?
101.
More than 40 different cities recording record highs yesterday, topped by Newark at 103 and Manchester and Boston at 102. In all, 150 million under heat alerts Tuesday, stretching from Maine to eastern Texas. New York's record 99 at Central Park, partly explaining the plea from utility companies like Con Edison.
So our general request to customers during these periods is to use energy wisely. Things like set your thermostats to a comfortable temperature, but not too cool.
Voters also braving the heat in the city's mayoral primary, not at the pool, but at the polls.
The only thing hotter than New York being 100 degrees is voting.
The rising temperatures taking a toll on firefighters in Norfolk, Massachusetts, who suffered heat exhaustion.
We had a couple firefighters, unfortunately, overcome by the heat that we had to transport.
And heat-related illness also to blame in Rhode Island, where at least 10 cases were reported at Narragansett Town Beach. Even commuters dealing with more than a few snags, dozens of buckled roads, forcing drivers to slow down. The extreme temps pushing folks to get creative and find relief from the wretched conditions. Even the animals at Black Beauty Ranch in Texas are taking extra measures to stay cool, avoiding sweltering by soaking. Families not letting the brutal heat brutalize their vacation plans.
They've been asking for ice cream like 24 hours a day, so I didn't budget enough for our ice cream on this trip, but we'll do the best we can.
All right, the heat is part of this next story we're going to show you. Check out this car. Whoop! Up. Hello, just trying to get to work. Do we see that again? Coming down the pike and whoop. So what does this have to do with the heat wave, you ask? The Weather Channel posted this video on its Instagram page. It was filmed in Missouri. They say the pavement there expanded under the extreme heat of the heat wave. They say that expansion causes the pavement to push against other pavement slabs. That makes the road buckle, and then you've got this simple drive to work that becomes like the Dukes of Hazzard. Hee-haw!
That car just like kept going.
Wow. Yeah.
I would have stopped short and be like, what just happened?
It could have been a case of like, I don't recommend this. In fact, I encourage you not to do this, but maybe the person is distracted in some way with their radio, their cell phone. They're just driving along and boom, like, what the heck just happened? I better start paying attention.
Terrifying.
I don't think I'd stop. I think I'd be like, what was that? I'm sure, and I probably wouldn't even know. And then you're kind of paying attention, and you're like, well, okay, everything sounds okay. And you keep.
That was a pretty. You were dramatic. Yeah, I feel like you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Late for work. Got to keep moving.
All right. It looks like once we get through today, parts of the Northeast and New England will be cooling off, while the other part of the Mid-Atlantic continues to be really hot. So this isn't a high temperature map. It's a projection map, what would be mid-afternoon in D.C. and New York. It's showing high temperatures 97 at that time. And the 90-degree heat with humidity making indices feel like it's 100 or better, extending back through Missouri. There's Kansas City at 90 degrees. Now I'm going to play this into tomorrow. See how New York tomorrow is all the way down to 75. D.C. is only about 90, so that cools off. And then as we get rolling into the weekend, there's actually scattered showers and thunderstorm activity started to hit this area. So the worst is almost over, it looks like, at least for some areas. This does show 100-plus degree temperatures down in Phoenix here in the west, as you would expect. And then meanwhile, we're incredibly comfortable. So this is likely a day that does not see the sun. We have a low cloud deck right now up and down all of western Washington and much of western Oregon from the coast to the valley and up in the Cascades. And if the clouds don't break, we'll only be in the 60s today. So incredibly comfortable to be out and about. Let's show you some of our live cameras. Up above the low clouds, kind of partly cloudy it looks like. We've got it zoomed into the summit. Already got some folks, that's the Palmer Snowfield, and see everything that's moving. That skier is already hitting the summer camp program there. 44 is the number. This looks like there's likely some moisture falling from the low clouds. Where the clouds are kind of on the ground. It's probably some at least misty weather. That's Willamette Valley Vineyards just south of Salem. I've been watching the balloon crew with that promotional balloon for Disneyland that's been on the bricks this morning. Looks like they're getting ready to wrap that up. 56, PDX at the top of the hour was reporting some light raindrop activity. So you might find some wetness out there during your morning routine. Temperatures 58 up in Kelso, 64 out in the Dalles where it's partly cloudy, and 61 where it's partly cloudy this morning over in Bend. Futurecast simply shows you the solid clouds at noon. Here's a solid cloud cover going into this evening. Again, if this is correct, we won't hit 70 today. We're getting some light precip out there right now, as I mentioned. If anything, we think tomorrow has a better chance of seeing measurable light precipitation at times here in the valley. Tomorrow expected to be a second straight day of most of us not seeing the sun around Portland. We absolutely have fog and light shower activity at the beach. Pacific City only 61 today. It'll be a couple of cloudy days for you folks as well. Salem, I think you'll need a sun break just to get up to 70, so we'll see if you get it or not. Out in the gorge, it's a partly cloudy day, nice day. Breezy afternoon, west winds 10 to 25, kind of typical stuff. The Dow's up to about 79, so really much of our state's pretty comfortable. Portland breaks out of the clouds, not today, not tomorrow, but Friday, 75, and then we're sunny and warm this weekend just like that. 84 on Saturday, 87 on Sunday. I do have one 90-degree day showing up, 93 on Monday to start next week, and that is your update.
Thank you, Ron. Let's take a look at your traffic. ODOT is reporting a crash on Highway 18 near McMinnville. The crash was first reported around 6 a.m. We'll keep you updated. We do have a look at drive times, I believe. And here they are, all in yellow. I-26 or Highway 26 is going to take you 19 minutes. And then Troutdale to I-5, 25. And then I-5 Wilsonville to the Markham Bridge going to take you 24 minutes for that.
I don't know if you guys heard about this or not. Walmart has been fined for wire fraud. We're going to have details on that story and other national headlines coming up when Sunrise, streaming live at 7 o'clock, continues here in 2 minutes.
KGW's Evening News. Important stories to help you stay informed and keep your family safe.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Christine Pitawanich.
And I'm David Molko.
Weather impact alerts to help you plan your week.
We need to be extra careful with anything that can throw a spark.
And a team of local journalists connected to our community. David Molko, Christine Pitawanich, and Matt Zaffino. Your Evening News team, tonight on KGW.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with KGW and KGW Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on KGW Plus. The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust. Track how the weather will impact your day. Breaking news live from the scene. All the local news you need. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.
Now to your morning rush. The Washington man charged with providing the chemicals used to bomb a fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California last month has died in federal custody. Daniel Park from Kent, Washington was found unresponsive at a detention center in Los Angeles. He was charged with providing and attempting to provide material to support a terrorist. Texas Congressman Al Green tried to impeach President Trump, but the effort failed. Green accused the president of not getting approval from Congress before launching strikes on Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. Lawmakers voted 344 to 79 to block the resolution. All 79 votes against it came from Democrats. Federal prosecutors have rested their case against Sean Diddy Combs after more than 6 weeks of trial. Yesterday, Combs' defense team did not call any witnesses to the stand. After the prosecution rested, the defense asked the judge to dismiss the case entirely. Since the trial began, jurors have heard from 34 witnesses who testified to claims that Combs leveraged his businesses as criminal enterprise to sexually abuse and exploit women for decades. And Walmart is paying $10 million to settle with the FTC. Investigators say the company allowed scammers to use its money to transfer services to steal from customers, and say Walmart failed to warn shoppers or properly train employees. Now the retailer must follow new rules to help prevent further fraud, and that's your Morning Rush.
We now have our first case of measles in Oregon in 2025.
State health officials warn about potential measles exposure coming up the areas that they have pinpointed. Plus,
you have these engines and cars that can throw off spikes. You have to exercise significant caution here. From what we can tell, that didn't happen.
Union Pacific accused of starting the Rowena fire. What the railroad company has to say about the accusations. Sunrise streaming live at 7 continues right after this.
KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust. Track how the weather will impact your day. Breaking news live from the scene. All the local news you need. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with KGW and KGW Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on KGW Plus.
We have now issued a weather impact alert.
We could expect conditions in some parts of our area to change drastically pretty soon, right?
And very quickly, yes.
This is significant rainfall coming our way.
You'll definitely want to be extra cautious.
Certainly becoming increasingly hazardous.
We've got the potential for some tree limbs or even trees or power lines to come down.
Of course, when you hear thunder, it's always best to take cover.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on KGW Plus.
Good morning on a cloudy, comfortable start to our day. I'm meteorologist Rod Hill. Some areas reporting a little bit of light moisture out there, so maybe that's finding you. Maybe it hasn't so far. Here's our state capitol building, low cloud cover, 56 degrees. This is a day with low marine clouds that are expected to, for the most part, hold steady all day. I think you can tell we are now starting to get a little bit of light moisture, especially up in the hills from Portland. 56 degrees, also reporting some light raindrops out over the Columbia River at PDX. Forecast map for later today, we would need a sun break just to get up to 70. Most of us, I don't think, will do that, so we'll hold in the 60s. Once you get over the Cascades, it's generally a partly cloudy, really comfortable day. You can see all the high temperatures. About 80 and not much above that, so that's nice. This is a 2-day cool down for us. Today, day one, The clouds hold will only be about 67 degrees for a high. There's actually a better chance that we'll have measurable light precip in the area with the low clouds tomorrow. Friday's the day we start to develop sun again, 75. Right now, your weekend plans will be under the sun with temps in the 80s.
"7:30 on a Wednesday morning. Heading back out live to the coast. Yeah, people hanging out on the beach there. A few people anyway on the beach early on this Wednesday. It is a cloudy start to the day in Lincoln City. This is our Chinook Winds Casino Resort Sky Cam. So good morning to our friends there at the beach. I'm going to be at the coast this weekend, gang.
That's what you were saying, both days.
What are you doing?
Hanging out in Seaside.
Yeah.
I am co-emceeing this year's Miss Oregon pageant.
Really?
The winner of that pageant goes to the Miss America competition.
Wow.
I was asked to do this maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I couldn't do it. We had like a baseball tournament or something.
Yeah.
They asked me again, which I was surprised I got the invite back.
So you haven't done it before?
Never done this before.
Oh, okay.
And we have a former Miss Oregon that's going to be my co-MC. This young woman won the event like in 2015. So she'll be there to help, but we'll see who the new winner is. And I think we may have the winner on our Sunrise show next week sometime.
Oh, that's
still in the works,
fun.
but this weekend is the big competition.
Oh, I love
Who will
that.
be our representative at the Miss America competition?
Best gig I ever got, China Green, was I got this true story years ago, the Oregon State Fair down in Salem. I got to be a chocolate cake judge.
I remember this.
I want that
yes.
gig.
That was fantastic.
I want that.
You're all winners. Here's a look at that. I think the same sky cam Drew just showed you from Chinook Winds Casino Resort in Lincoln City. Temperature 55 degrees. We've absolutely had multiple reports that there's some light moisture around at the beach. And the coast and the valley not expected to clear today. We think the low cloud deck will just be solid throughout the day. And we are absolutely now seeing some at least misty weather. Maybe in some areas it's a little bit more than that, 56 degrees. So rain jackets up for now, 61 at noon. If the clouds hold solid today, I think they will, we'll only get up to about 67. Yesterday was 85, so we were up and now we're down. And that's your forecast.
Thank you, Rod. 90 minutes ago, police ordered a shelter in place for people in the Hazelwood neighborhood of Northeast Portland.
That's because police are searching for 2 armed carjacking suspects there. Sunrise reporter Thomas Schultz live in Northeast Portland. Thomas, what can you tell us so far?
Well, Drew and China police have been out here for a couple of hours now, and I want to give you a different angle. This is just right across the street from where we're standing, showcasing police seemingly surrounding or at least looking outside of a house here. There's also been canines and drones in the air all morning long as they continue to search for these 2 suspects accused of armed carjacking. Now, this all happened and began after police responded to an armed carjacking around 4 o'clock this morning near 108th and Haslow. Officers then located the vehicle on the 1300 block of Northeast 114th. Suspects were then seen fleeing the area. Special operations officers and the crisis negotiation team are also on scene and have been throughout the morning. Again, residents have been asked to shelter in place, and guys, back out here live just along Northeast, Halsey, and 114th. This heavy police presence right behind us has been out here all morning long. They continue to monitor the situation. Anyone with information about who these suspects are or about this alleged crime is urged to contact Portland Police. Drew, China.
Our Thomas Schultz reporting live from Northeast Portland. Thank you, Thomas. And now to Wasco County, where 2 people are suing Union Pacific for starting the Rowena fire.
That lawsuit claims that a Union Pacific train sparked the fire. Keep in mind here, investigators have not given an official cause yet. Here's KGW's Devin Haskins with an update.
I cannot believe they have not shut this down yet. There we go. There's the fire.
The Rowena fire burned 3,700 acres and destroyed dozens of homes after breaking out near Interstate 84 on June 11th. A lawsuit filed Monday claims a passing Union Pacific train is responsible.
It appears that what happened is that the train threw off sparks, those caught the nearby brush, and because it was the red flag conditions, they spread.
The suit was filed on behalf of 2 local residents who lost property and had to evacuate. Their attorney accuses the railroad of negligence in failing to inspect the train and clear brush near the tracks.
And knowing if you're a train company that you have these engines and cars that can throw off spikes, you have to exercise significant caution here. From what we can tell, that didn't happen.
They believe it was sparks from a passing train that caused it.
Right now, the working theory is that in all likelihood, the brake was not properly set and released. And so that's likely what threw off the sparks. But we're not going to know that until our experts can physically inspect.
Union Pacific says it's cooperating with state investigators and said, quote, after conducting its own extensive investigation, Union Pacific has found no evidence to date that our train caused the Rowena fire.
I would have been very surprised if they would have said anything else. That's what a defendant in this situation pretty much always does.
Fire officials have said the fire was not caused by lightning and that it was human caused, but they say they haven't determined what officially started it yet. I'm Devin Haskins, KGW News.
After months of debate, the Oregon House has passed a bill that repeals a statewide wildfire hazard map. The map first rolled out in 2022, and the purpose was to let Oregonians know if their homes would be vulnerable to wildfires. But homeowners in high-risk areas say insurance companies raised rates or dropped coverage based on that map. The repeal passed the House 50-1. It now heads to the governor's desk.
In a health alert this morning, doctors have confirmed Oregon's first case of measles this year. Officials say it involves an unvaccinated patient, and they also say the person spent time in two very busy public places, a Safeway store in Lake Oswego and the airport.
Health officials also told us that the patient had just returned from an international trip. Here's Catherine Cook with more.
We now have our first case of measles in Oregon in 2025.
State health officials warn the adult with Oregon's first confirmed measles case of the year spent time at this Safeway store on A Avenue in Lake Oswego. They say they were here on Sunday, June 22nd, between 11:30 a.m. and 3 p.m.
I go here every day. It's my local grocery store, Safeway, so that's a little frightening.
Pedro Fernandez says he and his kids are vaccinated against the measles, a disease health officials declared eliminated in the U.S. 25 years ago.
The problem is there's so many people that, as a matter of choice, choose not to be vaccinated, but we're a public grouping of human beings. We're not just individuals, and this is where that intersects.
I think my biggest thing is if you're sick, stay home. Don't spread it around.
A few days before the Safeway visit, health officials say the adult was hospitalized with measles symptoms, including a rash and pink eye. A lab confirmed the disease on Monday. The patient had recently traveled internationally, pointing to another public exposure risk. On June 17th, they took a United Airlines flight from Chicago to Portland, landing around 6:30 p.m. Health officials say they spent 2 hours at PDX, including time in baggage claim. Doctors' biggest concern is over people who aren't vaccinated.
When it lands in a group of relatively unvaccinated people, it'll spread like wildfire. And so, what our summer looks like is going to be dependent on what that happens, whether that happens.
Health officials say measles symptoms can show up 1 to 3 weeks after exposure. They usually start with a fever, cough, runny nose, and red eyes, followed by a rash. To limit exposure to others, doctors say call your provider ahead of time if you think you're infected. Don't just show up. And they note the recommended 2 doses of MMR vaccine offer 97% protection against the measles.
And if the medical advice is to be vaccinated, then we're vaccinated. I don't see where there's a debate, and as a consequence, people are going to die unnecessarily with an eradicated disease. It's unbelievable.
Catherine Cook.
All right, let's talk holiday travel here for just a moment. TSA is predicting about 19 million Americans will fly somewhere for next week's 4th of July holiday, and they say the busiest day for travel is expected to be 2 days after the 4th, on Sunday, July 6th. Here's a tip from TSA. They say if you have TSA pre-check, you can bring kids 12 and under with you through that pre-check line.
Hey, if you plan to drive this 4th of July, expect to pay a little more at the pump. AAA says gas prices are climbing across the country as crude oil prices jump in response to those strikes between Israel and Iran and the U.S. attack under Iran's nuclear facilities. AAA expects more than 61 million Americans to hit the road for the holiday. Oregon's current average is about $4.08 per gallon. In Washington, it's $4.46 a gallon. The national average is about $3.23 a gallon. Headed over to Rod Hill for a look at weather.
Hey, good morning. Nice and quiet and comfortable. We're not going to see the sun today for the most part, but that leads to the fact that if you're working, playing, whatever you're doing, it's going to be super pleasant much of the time. Now, we are getting some light moisture falling from the cloud deck at this hour, so don't be surprised if you wander into one of those areas. It still looks like there's some raindrops on the pond at the Reserve Vineyards and Golf Club in Aloha, and some light precip being reported in Washington County. 56 is the temperature there. Downtown looking pretty murky from this vantage point, looking across the Willamette. Absolutely some areas of some light moisture. Same thing up along the Columbia River. You get sun as quickly as Hood River. This is partly cloudy skies this morning at Cathedral Ridge Winery, and this is on the west side of Hood River, on just off 84, basically, as you're driving into town. And then it's going to be partly cloudy and really nice central and eastern areas of our state today. The Dalles right now, partly cloudy, 64. John Day's partly cloudy, 62. But we have the solid overcast from Eugene all the way up to Seattle, and then, as I mentioned, up and down the coast. Futurecast is just going to show you that the clouds, the low marine deck, it's going nowhere. It's expected to stay solid throughout the day. Stanley is today's KGW Dog of the Day. Good morning, Stanley. Dog of the Day at kgw.com is our email address. Use that, send the photo, your dog's name, and your dog will be featured on our show as our Dog of the Day. All right, here's that weather map. So with the sun, central and eastern areas, Madras 83, Pelton 86, John Day 81. Really nice day. Very comfortable on the west side. The beach only about 60, and most of us up and down the Willamette Valley and southwest Washington, I think, will stay shy of 70 today, or no warmer than about 70 for a high. I know we're getting some light moisture out there right now. There's a better chance of getting more widespread, measurable light moisture tomorrow. And then Friday, we start to pull out of this. And then just like that, the weekend is sunny and summer. 84 Saturday, 87 on Sunday, and that is your update.
Rod, if you think if you were running on the freeway, you could run faster than 13 miles an hour?
I would like to think so, but I know I can't. I can't do it.
Well, cars are not traveling more than 13 miles an hour right now on that drive from Main Street to 405 on I-5 South. Yeah, really slow right now. That drive is taking people about 38 minutes. A little bit better on 205 South from Patton Parkway to I-84. That drive coming in right now at 22 minutes.
The federal government has filed a lawsuit to block a new Washington state law calling it anti-Catholic.
So the law is set to take effect late next month. It requires that clergy members report allegations of child abuse, even if that information is learned during confession. The Catholic Church is really at the center of this, but the law covers many religions. The U.S. Department of Justice claims that the law violates the First Amendment, which guarantees freedom of religion.
The question of whether the state needs to step in and compel the Catholic Church to allow their priests to breach confidentiality and not be excommunicated is a very extreme law, and I'm not sure that we necessarily have to go that far.
We heard from the Archdiocese of Seattle, which says the Catholic Church has already had policies in place for decades that require priests to report abuse, but still there is an exception when it comes to learning about the abuse during confession. Meanwhile, a last-minute move by Oregon lawmakers during the legislative session that ends here on Sunday could eliminate Multnomah County's Preschool for All program. An amendment introduced earlier this week aims to prevent counties from imposing an income tax to help cover the costs of preschool. Voters approved Multnomah County's program in 2020. That program taxes high-income earners to provide free preschool in the county for 3- and 4-year-olds. Multnomah County leaders called this effort to get rid of the tax, quote, unconscionable.
The County Commission is standing together, and Multnomah County is doing everything possible to protect against this unprecedented, unfair, and undemocratic effort.
And we're one of those rare families that we both benefit from and pay into Preschool for All. And we're thrilled to do it. We think that it's an extremely wise investment of public dollars.
If Oregon lawmakers move forward with this amendment, the free Preschool for All program could be gone in Multnomah County by the year 2027.
Meantime, the homeless service tax on high-income earners and businesses across the Tri-County area could lapse if voters don't renew it. Yesterday, the Metro Council essentially decided to scrap efforts to get an extension for the tax on the November ballot following a recent survey that showed voters were unlikely to approve it.
And it's become clear to me, if not to you, that there's really not a path this year to an extension of this measure, and that the gap in public trust is too wide. And we're going to have to work very hard over the coming years to narrow that gap and regain the trust of the public.
The current tax was passed in 2020 and is set to expire in 2030.
We try not to react because we don't want to encourage it.
Yeah, that parrot has a potty mouth. But despite his colorful language, staff at a shelter in Massachusetts hoping to find him a forever home. Good luck. We'll have the story after the break.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with KGW and KGW Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on KGW Plus. The KGW Plus TV app, streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust. Track how the weather will impact your day. Breaking news live from the scene. All the local news you need. KGW Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free.
KGW's 6 o'clock news. Important stories to help you stay informed and keep your family safe.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Christine Pitawanich.
And I'm David Molko.
Weather impact alerts to help you plan your week.
We need to be extra careful with anything that can throw a spark.
And a team of local journalists connected to our community. David Molko, Christine Pitawanich, and Matt Zaffino. Your evening news team. Watch weeknights at 6 on KGW.
I think you guys are going to like this next story. It comes to us from Massachusetts. It's about this parrot with a potty mouth who ended up in a shelter looking for a new owner who would be accepting of his colorful vocabulary.
We try not to react because we don't want to encourage it, but there's times we have to leave the room to laugh.
So we're not actually hearing from the parrot much because everything has to be bleeped out. This is Hendrix, described by some as an R-rated bird. Turns out his former owner gave him up to a shelter. The shelter says Hendrix actually lost a lot of its feathers due to malnutrition, and despite his almost naked appearance and his foul language, he received over 50 different adoption applications.
If you call him a pretty bird, he'll say thank you. He'll say good morning, baby. Other than the niceties, that's as far as the niceties go.
I want to know what he said. Come on.
Well, I got one more detail for you here. We now know that Hendrix is heading to a new home in Maine to live with a woman who maybe will teach him some other alternative words. The shelter describes him as a, quote, real Sour Patch Kid. If one side was sugar, they say the other side was arsenic.
Wow.
A sweet side for sure, but man, sometimes that foul language can get you.
Could you imagine just waking up in the morning to a parrot just dropping the F word?
Oh, yeah.
Just like a long...
Yeah, good morning to you. Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you very much.
Every parent's gone through this, right? The first time you're out in public and your little one goes, shh, you know, S-H-I something.
That was my first word.
And you're like, oh, what? I don't know how he picked that up. I have no idea.
Actually, my first word. I swear on everything I own that O is my first word. Yes.
The S word was your first word.
Yes.
Not mama,
Nope.
dada.
I don't know
Rodney.
what that says about my upbringing, but that was my first word.
Colorful.
Go to time.
Very colorful. We love that for me.
All right, Chana, I'm going to show you something that I've been showing at noon when we've been working together because I think it's a lot of fun to look at. We're talking about up in the Cascades. So for starters, there's Jefferson, Three Sisters. Beautiful morning. So what we have at the coast, what we have in Portland, what we have in Salem is clearly a low marine deck that is not making it up for the most part to pass level. Gorgeous weather. Temperature is 46 degrees. Here's what I've been having fun with at noon. Zooming into the ski and boarding camps that are underway up at Timberline Lodge. So this is the Palmer Snowfield. Everything moving is I think these are mostly skiers. They've got the terrain park set up down here for boarding. But if you're not familiar with this is a camp that attracts, literally, as I understand, athletes from around the world, not just here in the United States, to come for Olympic quality type athletes for training, because there just aren't that many spots in the world you can get training this time of the year, and that's what's going on up at Timberline. If you go up there at government camp, this time of year, there's like big buses. It's really busy, actually, hauling all these athletes around. It's going to be about 60 at government camp if you're going up there to do some hiking today, by the way. Salem, sky camera, cloudy skies. So far being reported as dry, 55. We do have some light moisture here in the Portland area and certainly up and down the coast. Astoria, 56, Newport, 54. The Dalles, 64, partly cloudy. It's a beautiful partly cloudy day, central and eastern areas where a lot of you will be up to around 80 for a high. But here on the west side, this is what we're going to have all day. This is noon, and this shows just that solid push of low clouds that have come inland, blanketing the coast, blanketing the valley. Then you get over the Cascades and they go away. We've had some light moisture today. That's tonight, still cloudy. This is tomorrow morning, still cloudy. There's still a better chance of not only light moisture, but light moisture becoming more widespread and maybe measurable during the day tomorrow. So we'll see what we end up with or what we don't. The bigger story there is the clouds and just the cool down for a couple of days. At the coast, absolutely some light showers occasionally, including this afternoon. Pacific City about 61 for a high. In the valley, you may need a sunbreak this afternoon, which you could get to just get up to about 70 degrees for a high temperature. I think most of us will not get that sunbreak and will only hold in the 60s. This shows Cowlitz County at 66 today. Good morning to you folks. I've got Portland 67, 65. Friday's the day that we start to break out of the low clouds, develop sun. That'll pop us to 75. And then we still expect a sunny, warm weekend, similar to the last couple of days. 84 Saturday, 87 on Sunday. And that 190 degree something day is still showing up on Monday of next week at 93. And that is your forecast.
Quick look at the traffic map here on this Wednesday morning. Definitely some slowing down now. And this was all green maybe about an hour and a half ago, but lots of red, orange around the area. So definitely keep in mind that you may need a few extra minutes as you head out the door this morning to get where you need to go.
KGW's Evening News. Important stories to help you stay informed and keep your family safe.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Christine Pitawanich.
And I'm David Molko.
Weather impact alerts to help you plan your week.
We need to be extra careful with anything that can throw a spark.
And a team of local journalists connected to our community. David Molko, Christine Pitawanich, and Matt Zaffino. Your Evening News team. Tonight on KGW.
We have now issued a weather impact alert.
We could expect conditions in some parts of our area to change drastically pretty soon, right?
And very quickly, yeah.
This is significant rainfall coming our way.
You'll definitely want to be extra cautious.
It's certainly becoming increasingly hazardous.
We've got the potential for some tree limbs or even trees or power lines to come down.
Of course, when you hear thunder, it's always best to take cover.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on KGW+.
Walked in behind me, and I said, "How much money do you need?" He said, $10,000. I said, "What's that for?" He said, "Well, we need people to insure the car, give it license plates, install the plates." I used to be a very bright guy, And I feel very stupid now having bought this.
Yesterday here on Sunrise, we told you about that 87-year-old Portland man who was scammed out of more than $10,000 after he was told he won a prize from Publishers Clearinghouse.
And now in Washington, there's a different scheme that's already scammed victims out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Brady Wakayama with our sister station Seattle tells us the signs you need to look out for.
These are significant losses of money, often to people who can't afford to lose that money.
It's a devastating scam targeting real money from real people.
The total losses over the state of Washington is more than $7 million lost by real Washingtonians.
Patrick Hines with the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office has been tracking these crimes since early last year. Here's how it works. The fraud begins with a text, phone call, pop-up alert, or email from people posing as bank officials and federal agencies like the Social Security Administration.
That you have been the victim of an identity theft, or your account has been compromised, or you have a virus. And you need to click on a link or enter a phone number and contact someone. And when you do that, you're put in contact with a scammer.
So far, 47 people have been victimized statewide, with nearly half of the reported cases in King County. The range of losses span $870,000 in one case to a low of $9,000 for another victim.
At the end of the day, our victims are being scammed into handing boxes with $20,000 to $30,000 worth of cash to a courier who then takes it away and it's in the hands of the scammers.
Investigators say victims who sent money sometimes also receive fake letters. The Social Security Administration shares 4 warning signs, including pretending to be from a trusted agency, claiming there's a problem, pressuring you to act immediately, and demanding payment in a specific way. If something seems suspicious, Hines says to verify it directly with the agency or organization and report any potential scams to police.
One of the biggest steps to avoiding a scam like this is just having the thought in your head that you need to be careful because this scam exists.
KGW News at Sunrise continues live in the 8 o'clock hour here on KGW Plus. We'll have continuing coverage of the search for the 2 suspects accused of an armed carjacking in Northeast Portland.
And we'll also have the latest on the ceasefire deal between Israel and Iran as President Trump attends a key NATO secretary summit in the Netherlands. Again, the 8 o'clock hour of Sunrise comes your way in just 3 minutes.